Hello, today I'm talking to Kevin English. Kevin is the founder of the Silver Edge website, which is dedicated to helping people 50 plus get in the best shape of their lives and really live their lives. So, something I totally get behind, Kevin. So I'm really happy to have you here and speaking to me. So can you tell us a bit more about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, my name's Kevin English. I'm really glad to be here. And like you said, I'm 56 years old. I am currently in the best shape of my life. I'm as fit and as strong as I've ever been.
Can you repeat that again, just so that people really hear it?
Yes, I'm almost 57, and I am as strong and as fit as I've ever been in my life. And I'm not so sure the best isn't yet to come.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so tell us a bit about, what do you do for a living and things? So
I am a personal trainer. I'm a certified nutrition coach. And like you said, I'm the founder of the Silver Edge, and that's a website that's dedicated to educating and inspiring men and women over 50 to live their strongest, healthiest, most capable lives. So I spend a lot of time working on that. I'm also the creator and host of the podcast, the Over 50 Health and Wellness podcast, and I get to interview incredible men and women over 50 allow them to share their inspiring stories of their fitness journeys and how they've gotten into good shape in that stage of their lives.
Okay, so how did you get to be in the best shape of your life? That's the obvious question that everybody's going, right. Tell us how you did it.
Sure. So I've been active my entire life. As a kid, I grew up on a farm. So very, very active outdoors all the time. I think most of our generation were primarily played outdoors a lot. So I was very active for the first part of my life, got into high school, and then just kind of ran into some trouble there. Had some substance abuse issues. I completely got out of fitness for some time. I certainly wasn't taking any kind of form of self-care nutritionally. I did surf. That was the only real physical activity I did. And that went on for quite some time. Then somewhere in my 30s, one of my brothers actually said, "Hey, we should run this marathon." And I had never run in my life. I didn't know how long a marathon was. It's 26.2 miles. I didn't know anything about it, but both my brothers were on board. He had bought a book. I think it was 4 months to your first marathon or something like that. So we started training together. Every weekend we got together and we would do our long runs together, and we'd meet after work and go for our weekly runs. And it was a good opportunity for me to bond with my brothers. I still wasn't doing anything else healthy. I wasn't eating healthy. I wasn't smoking at the time, but I certainly, you wouldn't say I was taking good care of myself, but this was where I first started to have a regular exercise regimen. I was running quite a bit. I started to focus a little bit on what I was eating. Mostly I just ate more because I was burning a lot of calories. So fast forward, we ended up doing a marathon together, and it was amazing. So it was one of those things, we crossed the finish line and my two brothers were like, you know what, one and done, that's a bucket list, I'm finished. And for me, just that feeling of accomplishment after all of that work was just so emotional and so overpowering that it was addictive. I immediately got online, went home and looked up another marathon. And it's not like I had performed very well. I just barely made it across that first one. But just that feeling of accomplishment, it was the first time I'd really set out a very difficult task for myself and completed it. And it was euphoric. And so that's, I think, when I probably started looking a little bit more, I started to read a little bit more. I was on online forums. I was running more. I joined a running club. People were telling me, hey, you need to carbo load before these big races. And so I started to think about nutrition in terms of performance for the first time. And from there, I did a number of marathons. I did a whole bunch of 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons. And then I did my first triathlon, and then I found something else to be obsessed on. I'm obsessed on triathlons for a while. I did a whole bunch of different.
I think some people still don't know what a triathlon is. So can you just explain?
Sure. So a triathlon it's 3 events. It's a swim followed by a bike ride, followed by a run. And they're all different sizes, and they go all the way up to the Ironman, which is the really, really long distance one. I've never done an Ironman. I've done a couple of the half Ironmans. But yeah, so I did that for several years, just completely immersed myself in it. I had, at the time, my kids were very young, and looking back on it, I realize now it was taking a lot of my time and attention away from my young family. Every weekend was either a race or it was focused around my long run or my long bike rides. And then of course I had to get home, I had to refuel, I had to recover. And rightly or wrongly, it was taking time away from my family. And I, as I kind of thought about prioritizing that, at that point, I put that on. I decided just to take a break from just the endurance stuff. I was burned out anyway. And when I transitioned from just running to swimming, biking, running, I was very good at swimming and I loved swimming and I was an okay runner, but I was a horrible biker. I didn't enjoy biking. Anybody who's done triathlons, that's the bulk of a triathlon.
Yeah.
My thinking would be, well, I'm one of the first out of the water in the swim. I'm doing pretty good. And then people would just zip by on the bike. And I think, well, I'll catch you on the run. Don't you worry about that. And I never did catch them on the run. So I never really excelled at it. But long story short, I burned out. I was just spending so much time and energy. And I stopped. I just stopped being active. And this would have been in my 40s. And I was still eating like I was doing all this activity, which was, and again, it was, thinking back on it, was mostly processed carbohydrates. It was crappy food. I wasn't really focused on nutrient density, or that hadn't been a part of my journey at all yet. I got away eating the way I was eating just because I was burning so many calories. And long story short is I got back, I was drinking more, just not paying attention to my diet, still eating a lot. I put on weight, which I'm 6'2", I'm a tall, kind of lanky guy. And that weight for me, straight around the midsection, was more of a skinny fat kind of a look. And my health just went down. I had a couple of bad, I'd always had good physicals when I went to the doctor for the most part, nothing bad. And my doctor started saying things like, hey, your cholesterol really isn't looking good. Your blood pressure isn't looking really good. And I'd never heard these things. And he would give me these very vague prescriptions, like you should eat better and exercise more. And I still thought of myself as exercising, even though I wasn't. And so I stumbled into a Globo gym, just a regular gym with the weights. I had no idea what I was doing. It was very uncomfortable for me. I was weak. I was, for all intents and purposes, except for my midsection, I was skinny. I had skinny legs, skinny arms. I just, in the beginning, just walked around and watched what other people were doing. And when they got off a machine, I would hop on it and find a weight that seemed reasonable and try it. So I spent probably a couple of years just off and on doing that. And it really wasn't until a few years ago, my teenage daughter was watching some CrossFit videos. And there's this woman, Sarah Sigmund's daughter from Iceland, who's an amazing woman. And my daughter was in love with her. She was just obsessed. She was watching all these YouTube videos of Sarah Sigmund's daughter doing these crazy CrossFit workouts. And we were watching them together, and she's like, Dad, we should do this. We should do this. And I said, yeah, we really should. And she's like, no, I mean, we really should do this. So I went with her to a local CrossFit gym. We just walked in one day and said, hey, my daughter's been watching these videos, and do you think it would be okay? I mean, could we join? And the guy was amazing, the coach there. And long story short, I fell in love with CrossFit. I really did. My daughter was the one that was passionate. I just was doing it because she was so passionate. It was a good way for me to spend some time with her. But I fell in love with it. There was the community aspect. It's almost, I mean, from the outside, it looks like a cult, maybe from the inside as well. I mean, it's this exercise cult, but it's got this very tight-knit community, which I hadn't had in the fitness sense. Really, I was kind of a lone wolf when I was doing my marathon and triathlon stuff. But there was this very close-knit community. I really enjoyed the competitive piece of it. I mean, as a coach, as a personal trainer, I can tell you, I can make a very good case for not doing ridiculous things like 30 snatches for time. And to be over 50 and to do that is just ridiculous. But here I am, I'm doing these things, and my promise to myself starting was I won't get injured, I won't get injured, I'm not gonna get injured. So I joined this CrossFit gym, and just in a very, very unlikely manner, I fell madly, madly in love with it. And so what that taught me was my CrossFit box is they're very strength centric. They work on, a typical day for me for CrossFit will be go in and do 10, 15 minutes of warm up and mobility. We're probably going to have a strength piece. We're going to work on squats or deadlifts or some type of presses. And then we're going to do some sort of what you probably think of as CrossFit, some sort of intense metabolic conditioning piece followed by a cool down. But along with that came this nutrition piece. Hey, in CrossFit, we have this very holistic view of health, and that includes nutrition, which is eating these whole foods and talking about macros and your proteins, your carbs, and your fats, and how not all proteins are the same, and not all fats are the same, not all carbs are the same, and having the proper percentage of each of those for you personally can affect your performance as well as the way you look, your aesthetics. So for the first time in my life, in my 50s, I'm feeling as strong as I've ever felt. I'm feeling as capable as I've ever felt. I have a six-pack for the first time in my life. I may have just from as a kid being skinny, but not being strong. And so here I am in my 50s now, and it's CrossFit that's introduced me to this work ethic, this intense workout. And I'm meeting people that are saying things like, yeah, you need to build strength, especially at your age. You need to put muscle on to increase your bone density, to reduce your inflammation, to have a healthy body composition. And whereas in the kind of the Globo Gym days, I had never really squatted to full depth because, to be sure, everybody knows that's bad for your knees. I had never deadlifted because that would be bad for your back. And now all of a sudden I'm doing I'm squatting more than I ever have in my life. I'm deadlifting twice my body weight, and I'm doing safely and effectively. I'm well coached, and I've actually gained muscle, and it's made a huge difference to my life. Just an amazing impact, all the way from just starting, early on with just that cadence of running 4 or 5 and then eventually 6 days a week to where I am today, just with this workout, nutrition, recovery obviously is a big part of anybody who's over 50. Certainly we're not going to recover the way we did when we were in 20s and 30s. We're not going to get away with eating the way we did then. So yeah, it's you can probably tell I'm very, very passionate about it. It made a huge impact in my life personally. And so now my mission is to kind of share that passion, to sell the fact that healthy living, strong living is preferable to the alternative, but the cost is very high. There's a cost that has to be paid every day. Working out isn't as fun maybe as sitting on the couch and having chips and watching TV, and it's not as fun to go to bed early and have a regular sleep schedule as it would be to maybe go out and have drinks with friends. It's not as fun to prep my meals and to eat whole foods as it would be to have Pop-Tarts and sodas. But the payoff is it's tremendous. So there is a price, and that's really what I'm trying to sell people, is on this idea that you can live your strongest, most capable, competent life. It's never too late to start that, and it's certainly not too late to make that a reality for you today, right? It's not even rocket science, really. It's a matter of discipline and making some small changes over a long period of time.
Yeah. I think people often focus, I wouldn't want to go to the gym's boring, or whatever reason they have for not going. And I would rather sit on the sofa and watch Netflix or something. But actually, the benefit that you experience the rest of the day in terms of your mental health, in terms of your physical health, it is so absolutely worth it, isn't it? I mean, there's a cost, but there's a cost also of sitting on the sofa and not exercising. There's a cost of eating McDonald's frequently, of drinking sodas and so on. I mean, there's a big cost.
There is a
and
big
people,
cost.
when people talk to me about, oh, I wouldn't want to go to the gym, it's like all they see is the downside. They don't see the benefit, and they don't actually see the downside of what they're doing, which is not enough activity and not eating well. And these can just give you so many dividends in so many different ways.
Yeah, so that's very well said, and I agree, obviously, wholeheartedly with
Yes.
that. So there's a trade-off between what I want long term and what I want right now, that instant gratification.
Yes.
Unfortunately, our society really reinforces us for the instant gratification. And you're right, it's in that, it's hard to be motivated all the time, and it's not motivation that makes me go to the gym all the time. Frankly, motivation is very fickle; it comes and goes. But it's that consistency and it's that dedication. But you're absolutely right. Today's a miserable day out. It's rainy, it's cold, and maybe I don't feel like going to the gym. And maybe there's a great excuse why I don't, right? I've got work, I've got this, I've got that. But when I get to the gym and when I do the hard work, you're absolutely right. The payoff is immediate, man. I feel good. I've overcome something. I've got all these hormones moving through my body. So I physically, biologically feel better. And it transfers over into other areas of my life, right? I do feel when I'm consistently working out and eating well and taking care of myself and practicing self-care, I'm just a better human being all around. I'm a better husband, I'm a better father, I'm a better employee, employer, all of those things, just a better human being for taking good care of myself.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that from my own experience. That there's times I go to the gym when I don't feel like it, and then actually getting there and doing it.
Yeah.
I must find who said this. There's a quote, something about a bad mood isn't a reason not to go to the gym. It's the very reason you should go to the gym.
That's right. Yeah.
So often when you least want to go, if you go and exercise, whether that's running, doing CrossFit, doing a spin class, whatever it is, the benefit of that in terms of how you feel afterwards is really good. And I know also, I mean, I was talking to a personal trainer about this recently, and he was saying, one of the particularly for women, he said this, that when women weight train, resistance train regularly, their confidence just builds. And it's not just the confidence in terms of, oh, I can lift heavy weights. They become much more confident in their whole lives. And I guess that's true of guys as well, is it? Do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. That transfers over. Anytime you challenge yourself and do something that you didn't think was possible, these people that set out, like I said, when I did my first marathon, all that just seemed, when I started, that seemed ridiculous to run 26 miles. And then when I actually completed it, that just bled over into other areas of my life. And that continues to this day. When I complete something that I hadn't done before, when I see my progress, it absolutely translates into other areas of my life.
Yeah.
There's many days when the hardest thing I do is in the gym, and that's a great day, right? If the hardest thing you're going to do all day is in the gym.
Yes.
And if I've completed something very difficult, maybe something I initially didn't want to do, that feeling of accomplishment does absolutely carry over into the rest of my day. And I always feel better after a workout. I mean, that's just, I think somebody once asked me why I ran marathons, and jokingly I said, they said, that just sounds miserable. And I said, well, it is, but the payoff is when you stop, when you finish. And it's the same with working out. I enjoy working out. Not everybody does, but most days I enjoy getting in the gym and doing it because it's become a part of my life. But there's days when it's just a miserable grind and I just get it done. But when I'm done, I always 100% of the time feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And tell us about your podcast, because I know that's a project that's really close to your heart. And I got interviewed on it.
That's right. So you were a guest on my podcast. Yeah. So it's over 50. Over 50 health and wellness podcast. And I started it, gosh, it's almost a year ago. But really, it was just a way for me to have conversations with other like-minded people who either had an amazing transformation story, somebody who had a lot of health complications, maybe a lot of weight. I love hearing transformation stories. Or just people who have are very fit in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and can help inspire other people. So there's really, the audience seems to me is kind of split in two. There's a whole bunch of people that listen that are already very fit, and they just like to hear what other very fit people are saying and doing. But really, my heart is reaching people that are looking to become, that are looking for inspiration. And so they're listening to these stories, hearing these people talk, and they're getting inspiration. Maybe they're getting motivation. Maybe something that somebody says is what gets them off the couch, or gets them in to see a nutritionist, or gets them into a gym, or to reach out to a personal trainer for some help. And yeah, I've talked to all kinds of amazing people, all walks of life, people that have been fit apparently from the day they came out of the womb all the way until now, and to other people who have just, they started their fitness journey in their late 60s. Just amazing stories, very inspirational. Love doing the podcast.
Yeah. Can you give us a sort of flavor of a couple of the transformation stories?
Sure. So
I think people always like to hear them, don't they?
Yeah. So a guy I just interviewed, and he's either coming out next week or the week after. He was at one point 350 pounds in a hospital for 2 weeks. His parents had both died from stroke-related illnesses. His brothers had both passed away from obesity-related illnesses. And he's laying here in the hospital, getting ready to lose kidneys. And he's thinking, I have to change. I have to make a change. This guy went from, in his late 50s, I believe, a 5-year transformation. He's lost all of that weight. He completed a half Ironman triathlon, and today is actually working on bulking up from 160 something pounds for his next bodybuilding competition.
Oh, wow.
So from 350 pounds overweight, and as you can imagine, all of the health complications that go along with that. And he's got a website now called If I Can, You Can Too. And so now he's had this amazing transformation, and he's sharing it with other people. He's sharing his story. He's sharing what's worked for him. And he's got this wonderful philosophy of like, look, it took me years to get that unhealthy. It took me years to get back to being this healthy. But I'm just a regular guy. I'm just a guy who woke up one day very overweight, morbidly obese, and sick, and said, enough. And this is what I did. This is my story. So people like that. I had another guy who was, I'd say, more just an academic kind of guy, and never really out of shape, but never really in shape. And right before he turned 70, decided, you know what, I think I'll get in shape, and I think I'll do a bodybuilding contest. And he hit the gym. He's started lifting weights. He's in his 70s. He looks great. He's built muscle. He's put on muscle definition in his 70s. He's really dug into the science of this. He went back and was studying all the bodybuilding literature, really got into nutrition, is taking care of himself. And now he's also out there encouraging other older people that it's never too late to get started. So stories like that. I drop a new episode every Wednesday. So it's a weekly podcast, and I get to talk to folks every single week about things that I'm very, very passionate about.
Fantastic. So I'm sure people will want to get more of you and get more of your podcast. So what's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, I'm probably the best way is at my website. It's www.silver-edge.com. And from there, they can see the podcast. You can get the podcast at iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get podcasts. But you can link to the podcast directly there. There's links to my social media as well, right there on my website.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much indeed. I've loved talking to you. I mean, I loved it when you interviewed me, and it's quite nice now to be interviewing you. And,
right.
you know, so that you can share your enthusiasm and passion for living your best life, for being really resilient, strong, fit in your 50s and later and later and later.
That's right. I hope to be doing this 20 years from now.
Yes, I'm sure you will, actually. I can't see any reason why you won't.
No, I don't either. Yeah.
In your 70s, you were going, I'm the fittest and strongest
That's
I've
right. I've ever been.
I've never
That's the
been
goal.
this fit and strong.
That's right.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin.
All right, Jane, thanks so much for having me on. I had a blast.
Okay, great.